Hello, my podcast people, and thank you for joining me for yet another episode of my favorite podcast. Today we are talking about what type of content goes where. If you're listening to this or watching it the day that it dropped, it is Monday, January 22nd. Holy smokes, the month is going by fast. Hopefully I get through the rest of these updates fast because this is going to be a little bit of a longer episode. Maybe it's going to be a little bit of a longer episode. It's a longer outline. When I sat down to write this, I was like, I don't even know if I have enough material for a full episode. And then 4 pages later, I was like, I think I do. So I want to give you a little life recap and a little announcement, and then we'll jump into the full episode. So at the time of recording this, last week we being Lex and myself, we hosted the LextroMind live event, and it was fucking bomb. It was so good. For those of you that don't know, the LextroMind is the 9-month group coaching program that I run with Lex. It's for brick and mortar / in-person health and fitness business owners who are looking to launch their first online offer, right? They're really looking to do the thing in the online space. They've been doing it for a little bit, but they're like, how do I sell stuff? What tech do I need? We got you. I'm working with Lex, and that in mind, the LextroMind is marketing strategy. That's mostly me. Meets tech and implementation. That is Lex. So the next round of that will launch in the fall of this year, probably around October. If that sounds like something you're interested in, then add your name to the interest list and you'll be the first to get all the deets and know when applications have opened. We will link that in the show notes. Thank you, Courtney. Super grateful for the 8 women who took the time out of their schedule, out of their lives, away from their families to join us for the live event, right? Live events are always magic, but live events, part of the magic is that you have to sacrifice other things and like you're in the room, but like you have to take the effort to be in the room, and that creates some of that magic. So just, if you're listening to this, you're one of those 8, just know that we appreciate you more than we can really express, not just for being there, but for being our first cohort. And real talk, it's going to be a tough group to follow. Like these women are all super motivated. They're super type A in the best way possible. And they're all super grateful, which is just like, that's what you want from a client. And they're fucking awesome. So we got a shit ton done at the live event. We did offer creation, sales page creation, launch planning. And now I get to go and do the same for the ladies of Legacy. So Legacy Live is this weekend. So as I'm recording it, it's going to be this week. I know that that'll be great. And then I'll do a review of that after it's done. So that'll be like in 2 weeks or so. And of note, the Throwback Thursday episode is likely going to be how to host a bomb-ass live event, because that means I'll just have finished 2 bomb-ass live events. So we'll bring that episode back. So if you're thinking about hosting a live event, and they are so good, I'll give you all the deets on how to do that, right? So for those of you who don't know, I do want to say this. Legacy is the 6-month mentor that I run with my girl Jill Fit, my bestie. It's for intermediate plus online business owners. So we see LextroMind is for in-person, brick and mortar, physical location business owners, whereas Legacy is for online business owners that are intermediate plus. And these folks are looking to grow their revenue, create more predictability in their business, and ultimately have their biggest launch ever. If you want to hear more about Legacy, I've spoken about it a bunch and I have a bunch of episodes about it. So if you want to hear more about that, check out any of the business and bullshit episodes that I did with Jill. Thank you, Courtney. Or bonus points if you watch them on the YouTubes. We'll link all of that in the show notes, right? So that will also be launching in the fall, and we'll drop the link to get on the interest list for that, so you can be the first to have the deets and know when applications open. All right? Okay, last announcement, or I guess first announcement, but last thing that's not specifically related to the episode before we drop in or hop into the episode. So I think in like last episode, 2 episodes ago, I spoke about the intensive, my Instagram intensive. And I usually launch that in February. With LextroMind starting, and I have 2 live events that I'm speaking at, one in February, one in March, it just didn't make sense to run the intensive at the same time I normally do. So I'm going to push it back. I'm going to push it back until March. That in mind, I want to do something before then for folks who, one, maybe didn't want the intensive because it's too long, or want to get started right now. And what I'm going to do is on February 10th, I'm going to host an Instagram for online business masterclass. It's probably going to be about 3 hours long. I'm thinking about $97. I'm saying about because at the time I'm recording this, I haven't finalized it, but by the time this episode comes out, it'll be finalized and you will be able to register. But it is looking like February 10th, $97, 3 hours long. Yes, there will be a recording. And I'm going to teach you everything you need to know to get started using Instagram for online business, right? It's for the folks who want to get started right now. They don't want to wait till March. The folks that are like, give me the info. I don't need to be in a group thing. I just want it right here. Obviously, it's going to be less comprehensive than the intensive would be, but you'll still get all of the foundational information in order to get started using Instagram for online business. That in mind, in reality, I would probably do something where if folks take that class and then they're like, actually, I do want the accountability and the deeper education offered by the intensive, I'll probably do some sort of discount pricing for the intensive. But either way, this announcement is to announce that there will be a Maestro class, aka Master class, 3 hours online, Saturday, February 10th. And the link to register will be in the show notes. Okay? All right. Let's get into the actual episode, which is what type of content goes where. This episode is somewhat inspired by a nice feisty DM. It wasn't feisty towards me. She was just like revved up about it. That I received from someone who was unhappy that she was seeing the same content being posted on Threads and Instagram. Spoiler, I don't care if you do that. It's fine. Live your life. And there is actually reasoning behind this because it's the same type of content. And it's actually okay to do that. And you'll see as I break this down. But if it bothers you as a consumer to see the same type of content, the same exact content on multiple platforms, my soft suggestion, and this is what I said to her, and she totally was in agreement. It was a great conversation. But my soft suggestion there is go create more content so that you don't have time to be watching people so closely and noticing the same content being posted on different platforms, right? Again, it was a great conversation. She wasn't like, how dare you say that, Maestro? She was like, you're right. I know. I'm going to go create something. And I was like, thank you. And I'm going to go make an episode about this. So the story on the story here is that repurposing of content and repurposing of ideas is totally fine. And in reality, you need to repurpose ideas across different platforms because people need to hear things 11 billion times, right? The goal in being a content marketer is not to say 11 billion different things. The goal is to say the same few things, the same key principles, the same few ideas over and over again in as many different ways as possible, right? So I think that there are 5 different places where you can distribute free content, and or at least 5 different places that we're going to focus on in this episode. That's going to be social media, podcast, email, blog, and YouTube. Right? A few things to note before I kind of guide you on what goes where. Number 1, especially as it relates to social media, every social media platform has a different language. This is why directly cross-posting typically doesn't work that well. Like taking the same exact post and putting it on TikTok and Facebook usually doesn't work. Or taking the same post and putting it on Instagram and Facebook typically doesn't work. It usually doesn't work because it's different languages, right? So this episode isn't about what social media platform to post what on. It's about all the different platforms and where you can distribute free content. But taking this idea that each platform has a different language, you got to understand that as it relates to all the different places to distribute content, you want to realize that folks that are using these different platforms, they have different learning styles. That's why they're on that platform. And they have different expectations for what's going to be required of them or from them as it relates to attention span. So we as a creator want to share different types of content on each of those platforms, right? Again, those platforms being social media, podcast, email, blogging, and YouTube. Right. The second thing to note here is understanding and leaning into how you communicate and how you build relationships. Some folks build relationships via relating, right? Some folks build relationships through providing solutions. Some folks do it through both. I tend to, if I had to give myself one or the other or put it on a spectrum, I tend to lean towards building relationships through relating. So my content tends to reflect that, right? My content, yes, I aim to make it actionable, but it's not my default to be like, here's a list of things, here's the order of operations for things. My superpower is getting people motivated and helping them get started with things. All right, so when I create content, it's easy for me to create content, especially if I'm thinking about something like an email, newsletter. It's easier for me to create content it's easy for me to create content just to touch base and connect, right? Not necessarily to provide immediate tactical solutions. To that end, the flip side of it, blogging, I don't love that as much where we're really strategic with it and we're outlining steps and order of operations. That's not fun for me to do that. So I don't really do that as much. When I first started out in the movement space, I actually did a bunch of things like that. Just kind of forced myself to do it, but it's not like my preference, right? Neither approach is right or wrong. It's just helpful for you as the creator to understand and identify and understand how you are, and then lean into that kind of content and that type of frequency. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is break down those 5 different types of those 5 different platforms and what goes on each, right? So the first one is going to be social media. I'm lumping them all together here: Instagram, Facebook Reels, YouTube Shorts, TikTok. This is for short form audio-visual content. On these platforms, we're looking to share single ideas, and bite-sized pieces of information, right? One solution, one post, one solution. One post, one idea, one post, one statement, right? Or one piece of content. That's it, singular. This is done oftentimes via video, but there is room for writing or written content, especially on Instagram. This is why the overlap between Threads and Instagram, I don't really mind, right? Because of that shared written common ground. All right, so a verbatim crossover between Instagram and Threads, it can make sense, right? Yes, Instagram does tend to lean towards audio visual, but it leans more towards the visual side of audio, and people will read. So having both on the same, both things on 2 platforms makes sense. Yes, on Threads, we're looking for a little bit more interaction, things like that. And I probably could do an episode on using Threads, although I'm by no means like a Threads master. But suffice to say, social media is where we're looking at short content, largely short audio visual content. The next one, podcast. This is going to be long form audio. Each episode is typically about a single idea, but here you're able to provide more nuance, you're able to provide alternative solutions and more supporting information. And it's all done in that audio format. To me, podcast episodes also allow for more personality per individual piece of content, just because it's longer, right? You're in someone's ear for 15, 20, 25, 30, if you have longer podcasts and longer time frame. And you can really inject and infuse personality because they can hear you, right? They can feel you. Whereas a single social media post, they just don't have the time for that. They can start to get to know you, especially if they put together all those pieces of content. But a single podcast episode can definitely tell you more and make you feel more connected to someone than a single social media post. Here, we're going to see how your personal approach to building relationships can really influence things, right? The podcast could be purely informational, or you could spend some time like I did with some life updates and things like that where people really get to know you. That is your choice. The next platform would be email. This is where we're going to be distributing long-form written content. Each email is typically going to be about a single subject, right? A single idea. But again, just like with a podcast episode, you have more room to provide nuance, other solutions, and more supporting information, right? And all of this is going to be in written format. So we see podcast and email can be very similar, right? But just one is going to be auditory and the other one's going to be written, right? Visual. Here again, we see how the personal approach can really influence things, right? The email could be purely informative, as could a podcast episode, or it could be more story-based and anecdotal, right? Either way, what you're sharing here will typically be longer, oftentimes much longer than what you share on social because you have more real estate. Overall, I think when it comes to email, I think as creators, we really need to be mindful that people are super protective over their inboxes. And so if they do let you in, don't fuck it up, right? Don't fuck it up. Deliver what you say that you're going to deliver. Right? I put email first on this list of different platforms because my approach to organic strategy and organic growth prioritizes social media as the top of funnel and then utilizes email to deepen those relationships and make sales, right? There's always money in the email list. And the next thing we're going to go into is blogging, right? Because that is a top of funnel strategy. But for me, it's not the top of funnel strategy, right? Top of funnel meaning where are the initial eyes coming from? For me, the initial eyes are coming from social media, right? So the next platform would be blogging. This is also long form written content. The difference here is that to me with blogging, because we're looking to use it as a top of funnel strategy, we are more intentional and strategic and it's overall an SEO or a search engine optimization play. Right? This is for people who want blogging to be top of funnel and using it for audience building, audience growth, and lead generation. I got a resource we're going to link for you from my girl Lex. She's literally my girl. Lex, it's a blog she wrote about how to create SEO-friendly blog posts. So you can check that out if blogging is your thing or you're looking to do more blogging, because it's not my thing. I think this is great. I think blogging is great for the person who really excels with that solution-based approach to connecting with their audience, right? And also likes writing. Because you could also do it with a podcast and make the podcast very solution-oriented. Lex is very solution-oriented. She does life updates as well, but it's like very much like, here's how you do this thing. Here's what you should have on these things. Right? And people love that. So lean into however you are and then lean into your strengths of whether it's writing or podcasting. Yes, at some point it can be nice to do all of it, but you want to start off with the thing that comes the easiest, and then you can look to layer things on. Right? As it relates to the blog, each blog post is going to be about one topic, aka the keyword, and then you'll provide supporting information in that long form written format. Yes, you could simply make your emails and turn your emails into a blog, but don't bank on organic traffic coming from that. Right? Flip side of that is that I actually coach my people to do this and just take their emails, right? Write emails first, because I want top of funnel being social media. Then we deepen those relationships via email. And then we take those emails and we can put them onto our website as a blog. Why? Because some people are visual learners. So you take that same content that maybe you had in the podcast, that same content that you had in that email, and now you make it a little bit more public facing for people that know you, that are going to your website. And it can be really helpful for them to be able to just access it quickly, right? Because I know for me, I'm like, I don't want to watch a whole video. I don't want to listen to a whole podcast episode on it. I want to be able to read it really quickly, but I want to get it from the source that I trust, right? I may not be like searching for it organically, but I know this person, I know that they have this. Let me go and just read their solution, right? Of note, this is why I'm also really liking adding transcripts to podcast episodes. And as I bring back the Throwback Thursday episodes, I'm really liking it because I can go back and see, like, what did I talk about? Is this the episode that I want to put up? And it's how I like to learn and consume content. So I'm finding it really helpful. But suffice to say that blogging is going to be long form written content, right? One topic, and then you get to expand on that topic. And if you're using this as a top of funnel strategy, you're really going to take that SEO approach, and you're going to have more work that goes into this. It's not just like whatever comes off the top of your head. You're going to really be looking to be very intentional with how you create this and what you're writing. Lastly, we have YouTube, which is going to be medium and long form video. Yes, obviously we have YouTube Shorts. That's going to fall into that first category that I spoke about of social media. But YouTube, as most of us know it, medium and long form video. And typically that medium form video comes from editing down the longer form video. These videos could be vlogs, right? Or they could be more solution based. I would put the podcast, like a video podcast, more in the solution base, but it can kind of go in the middle if you like have that more like relating approach to building relationships. Right? But either way, it's long form audio visual. Again, each video is typically about one idea, but here you're going to be able to provide nuance, alternative solutions, more supporting information via audio visual means. Right? You can, of course, edit one idea out of, or one part, one solution, one bit of supporting information out of that longer YouTube video and make it into a reel or make it into social media content. But we see the difference where shorter, singular, especially very action-oriented, that's going to be on social media. Whereas when we're going to really expand and provide nuance and provide supporting details and information, that's going to be on YouTube. Obviously, YouTube can be used just to house videos for like a free public library. In that case, oftentimes it's just like very singular, very short, kind of how-to videos. But people oftentimes do like to talk a little bit and provide more explanation to that video about the exercise, things like that, which then turns it into that medium-length video, right? So ultimately, we see that content can go anywhere, right? Any content can go anywhere. What typically dictates where things go is the depth of discussion and the method of presenting it. Social media, single idea, very short form, and it's going to be audio visual. Podcast or podcast episode, single topic with nuance and supporting detail presented in long form audio format. Email, single topic with nuance and supporting details in long form written format. A blog, single topic with a strategic approach to implementing or creating or deciding upon those supporting details based all on SEO principles. We're ultimately looking to use blogging as the top of funnel approach to audience building and lead generation, right? And again, this is also going to be in that long form written format. YouTube, single topic presented in medium and long form video format. What platform you start out with is going to be up to you and your inherent strengths and skills. I personally think that social media is the easiest in terms of getting in front of more eyes. People are there, but we see the inherent difficulty because it asks that you present shorter content, and shorter is typically more difficult than longer, right? So to that end, perhaps that means that you start with longer content, and maybe it is longer on a platform that it isn't designed for, but you start with that longer content and then you cut it down to make it more platform appropriate, right? But ultimately, that is going to be up to you. The big take home here is that every platform has a different learning style and different expectations for required attention span. So it would behoove us as the creators to be mindful of that and share the different types of content on each. All right. I'm looking at the time. Speaking fast these days, right? I get excited about this stuff and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. But this is a somewhat longer episode, so grateful for you tuning in. Don't forget that Instagram for Online Business Masterclass will be on February 10th. If you're interested, all the information and the registration page will be in the show notes. You got questions, shoot me a DM, shoot me a text, 310-737-2345. And that's all that I got for you. As always, endlessly appreciative for every single one of you. Until next time, friends, Maestro out.